So yeah, I totaled my car. I had really bad whiplash, but thank God nothing else happened. And now I had to fit into my busy schedule, trying to find a new car, and also going to physio. And I didn't give my body any time to rest after I got into this car accident. I got into my car accident at 5 o'clock, and then at 11 o'clock at night, I came home from the collision center, finished dealing with everything I needed to deal with, and then at 2 a.m. I was up again to go do makeup. And I did not take a break because, first of all, my clients had already booked me so well in advance, I couldn't just cancel on them. And also I needed the money. So I just kind of powered through it. But that really fucked up my body. I have a lot of back problems and neck and shoulder problems now because of not letting my body rest, and because I would do a lot of physical labor. Like I would have to bend over and do makeup on people, and stand on my feet for like hours at a time. So I had a lot of back problems because of that. I still do. And if you know anything about birth control and have ever gotten off birth control, you would know that after you get off birth control, your periods are like 50 million times worse. Like the pain just skyrockets. Like you get way worse cramps, your flow is so much heavier, it lasts longer, like you have a lot more back pains, headaches, like whatever. Your period is just amplified basically. So that was all happening while my body was in so much pain from the whiplash, and I drove a lot too. So again, I just wasn't letting my body rest. And then I was still going through the mood swings because the birth control was still in my system at this point. So just trying to deal again with all of that at the same time, not sleeping, keeping up with work, and really just ended up overworking myself. But thankfully at this time too, my period had regulated and I was only getting my period once a month. And then in November of 2017, I ended up getting offered a position as a national account manager for this makeup company that my friend had just become a director in. And I was like blown away because I really shouldn't have gotten the position. I was very young and unqualified, but because she trusted me and thought I was smart, she gave me the position, and I took it because I thought it was like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And because of this position, I had to cancel a trip that I had coming up to Asia in January. And I was so bummed about it, so bummed, because at this point I hadn't gone on vacation in like 2 years, and I was really overworking myself, and I just wanted to relax. But I took the job anyways. And what also really bummed me out was I was gonna go on this trip with Bikra, and because we weren't gonna go anymore, he decided to go to New Zealand to see his cousins. And I was just so sad because he was having fun and in somewhere hot, and I just felt so depressed and so anxious at this time. And I was just so stressed out and so overworked. And then so I started this job, and then mid-December I started realizing how stressful this job was. Like I was working all the time, and our management, like, so mine and my directors, like management, the people that were higher up than us, they weren't even here, they were in Europe. So our schedules never really aligned, and they were so hard to communicate with. They would just like put so much pressure on me to like increase sales, but they would do nothing to help me with that. Like I would ask for all these things from them so I can put initiatives into the stores to increase sales, but they would not help me and then yell at me for not increasing sales. And it was the most frustrating thing. I used to work from like 8 a.m. to about like, I would say 11, 12, sometimes even like 2 a.m. every single day. And that was because I was working this like 9 to 5, and then also trying to keep up with Ready to Glow and pushing out content as much as I used to, and all this stuff. And then in December 2016, my period started coming back again, and this time it stayed for good pretty much. So from mid-December to April, I was on my period the whole time. Like I was constantly bleeding, and it was awful, and I was so depressed about it. I felt so lost, I felt so lonely. I just wanted it to stop, and I felt like I had all this other stress in my life at the same time. So in January, again, I was like bleeding, constantly working. At this point too, I started going blind in my left eye randomly. Like it would go on and off. I would be able to see out of it, and then sometimes I wouldn't completely. And then I would get really bad migraines, sleep paralysis. At this time too, Vicar and I had also decided that we were going to tell our parents about each other, and we were both very, very stressed out about that because we did not know how our parents were going to react, because my parents were already very unhappy with what I was doing as a job. And that was another thing I guess I didn't really stress to you guys. Throughout like 2016, 2017, my parents were on my ass about getting a real job and like constantly just like talking about like how I'm not really doing anything and how this isn't gonna work. And they were also very like, I don't understand why she's always in her room. And so like throughout those years, I had to really listen to my parents talk down about me a lot. So yeah, I was stressed out because I had to tell my parents, and I already felt like a disappointment to my parents with what I was doing. So I was really, really stressed out about telling them. And then in March of 2018, I decided to go to Cuba with Kavita. And Kavita at the time was really just my eyebrow lady. She did my eyebrows. She was mad cool, but like we weren't super close. We basically only saw each other on the occasions where she was doing my eyebrows. But she had told me that she was going to Cuba just like on vacation by herself, just to kind of get away. And I was like, oh my God, I need a vacation so bad. Like, can I please come with you? And it was just really random, but she was like, yeah, come. So we ended up going to Cuba together. So I went to Cuba with her. I decided there that I was gonna quit my job that I was working that 9 to 5 because it was really stressing me out. And I was telling Kavita about all my problems that I was having, and she was basically like, man, you have a lot of bad energy around you. You need to go to Reiki and heal that energy. So she's the one that kind of introduced me to Reiki, introduced me to what energy is and spirituality and all that good stuff. And so I started like kind of embarking on that journey when I got back from Cuba. I also decided that I was going to try Reiki when I came back from Cuba, but I also really wanted the bleeding to stop, because at this point I was again in and out of doctors the entire time, and I was like going to every single doctor that you could possibly go to. Like I went to actual doctor, like family doctors, naturopaths, gynos, I did acu, like there was just a bunch of things I tried and nothing was working. So I went back to my doctor and I was like, fuck it, put me back on birth control. I guess I'll just be crazy, but I don't want to bleed anymore. Like that was my trade-off. Either I'm batshit crazy and not bleeding, or I'm bleeding all the time and not crazy. So I went back on birth control in April. We told our parents in April as well about each other, which was a situation on its own and stressful on its own. And I also started Reiki at the end of April, beginning of May. So yeah, now I'm back on birth control, and I started feeling the effects pretty much right away in May, June, July. I was absolutely batshit crazy again. Serious mood swings, went back into serious depression, anxiety, very suicidal. At this point, I was waking up every single morning feeling like I got hit by a bus. So like I would wake up between 3 to 5 a.m. and felt like I literally got hit by a bus. Like I had the worst of migraines, and it would take me about an hour, hour and a half to fall back asleep, for which I would sleep for about an hour to 2 hours. And in that time I would suffer from sleep paralysis. And if you don't know what sleep paralysis is, it's basically like you're sleeping, but you're awake. Like you feel like you're awake and you know what's kind of happening around you, but you can't wake up. Like you feel like your body is paralyzed, you can't move your body. And it was awful. So that I kind of went through that sleep cycle for like at least a good 3-4 months. So I wasn't sleeping at all. It was really scary because I felt crazy while I was awake, and I felt crazy while I was sleeping. So there was never a moment where I felt sane. And it started getting so bad that I felt like I started hearing voices in my head, and I would have to listen to these voices, and I would have to react the way these voices wanted me to react. Otherwise, I couldn't get rid of what I was hearing in my mind. And I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stop the urge. It was, oh my God, I don't even know how to explain how out of control I felt. Like, I felt like I was absolutely losing my mind at this point, because I had gone through like 3 years of this now. I felt so lost, so confused. I had no idea who I was anymore. I felt like, I know that's not me, like that side of me is not me, but is it now? Like, I would always kind of question myself, because I didn't know. Like, I didn't know, because I was like, do I just need to accept that this is what I'm like now? Like, do I just need to accept that my body has changed and this is it, and this is who I need to be, and this is what I have to deal with? And I just, like, I wasn't able to come to terms with that, because I was like, I am not that person. I am not angry all the time. I am not crazy. I am not depressed. I'm not sad. I'm not anxious. I'm not that person. And I just, like, I couldn't accept it. So there was just such a mental battle going on of just trying to keep sane when I did not feel sane at all. And also in 2018, like the summer of 2018, while I'm going through all of this, my best friend at the time was getting married, so there was a lot of things happening with her wedding stuff too. And I felt like not myself around that group of friends anymore. I felt like they didn't really understand what was going on. They knew what was happening with me, but I don't think they were really able to sympathize with me, which is fine. I'm sure they all had their own things kind of going on in their lives. But I felt like we had really, really distanced, and I felt like they were very judgy towards me all the time. Like, I don't know, I just felt like I didn't fit in with them anymore. I felt like very off with them. I felt very like that I just didn't belong. They would say and do some weird things towards me, and I just felt really, really uncomfortable around them. So yeah, that was also kind of happening at the time. And I always somewhat felt this way, but not to like a full extent. And then that summer, it was all just really, really being brought up and like brought into the light of like how I felt they were treating me poorly. And again, I don't really want to bash people. I just feel like we grew apart as friends, and they didn't really understand my situation, and maybe I didn't understand theirs. Like, maybe they were going through stuff too. I'm not sure. So yeah, that was also happening. I was really stressed out about my like friend circle, because I just felt like just so sad around them all the time. But I had to spend a lot of time with them because of this whole wedding situation. And I was so insanely crazy throughout the summer and getting really, really suicidal again, that in August I was like, you know what, fuck this. I really can't do this anymore. I'm gonna get off birth control again. So I got off birth control August of 2018. Again, it takes 3 months for it to clear out of your system. So seriously batshit crazy up until like November of 2018. September of 2018 is when my friend got married, and that was a really rough time because I had just was really feeling some negative energy from them. One friend specifically, and she was just always saying really mean things to me or trying to put me down, and saying them in front of people too. So it was really awkward for me. Yeah, I felt like no one cared anymore. Like, no one cared about me anymore. And maybe it was because I wasn't around, but I wasn't around because of all these things that were happening to me. So I'm not sure if they really understood that. But yeah, I remember after my friend's wedding, I had to go to an event, and the other friend had like said something to me that I just felt like pushed me over the edge, and I went down. Oh my god, I was going downtown to this event, and I was bawling. I remember I called my friend Jessica, who was also going to be at this event, and I was like having a full-blown anxiety attack as I'm driving downtown, like bawling my eyes out. I couldn't breathe. I felt like, oh my God, I just felt so awful. And then I had to show up to this event and be like, hey guys, like, how's it going? And it, it was the fucking worst. It was the worst. I would also like to point out, having anxiety/panic attacks were very, very common for me. Like, I would probably suffer from it at least once a day, especially when I was on birth control. If not once a day, every other day for sure. And sometimes it would even be multiple a day. So yeah, like it would start off kind of as like me being irritated, and it's slowly building up. And like, you know, when you can kind of feel your blood boiling because you're getting angry about something? So it would start like as like being irritated, then my blood boiling, and then it just like skyrocketing. And sometimes it would happen in a matter of like minutes, like from being like calm to being like super fucking angry. And it got to a point where I would have these like anxiety attacks, panic attacks right after I was like super angry. I would end up throwing up, blacking out. I had serious migraines after that. My eyes would be like swollen and bloodshot red from crying so much. So that was very common and happened all the time. After the wedding, I pretty much decided, I was like, I can't be friends with this girl. Like, she's driving me crazy, and she's making me feel way worse than I need to. So I started distancing myself from that group of friends. And I started to get kind of better in like October, November. My period was regulated at this point now. Again, still a little bit crazy, but not so bad. And then November is when I started really feeling like myself again. I started feeling a lot more calm. I would have my panic attacks or have a few mood swings like here and there, but not even as close to as often as I used to. But November of 2018 is when I started feeling so lost with who I was. I had been going through this situation, I guess, for 3 years at this point, that I just didn't know who I was anymore. I felt like I couldn't gauge my emotions anymore. I was very confused about like, am I allowed to feel sad about this? Am I allowed to feel angry about this? Is it right for me to feel this in this situation? So I was always second guessing my emotions. And that was very confusing to me, because it's kind of like, no one should be able to tell you how you feel, because everyone reacts to things differently, right? Like, what makes you sad doesn't always make me sad. So I couldn't even tell what made me sad or angry or what didn't. Like, any type of emotion I was feeling, I couldn't differentiate whether it was me or this crazy person that I was. Like, I felt like I had like this alter ego of this like crazy bitch that just was out of control. And I was like, is this me? Is it Hamali, or is it that other person? So that was a battle that I still kind of deal with today, where I feel very, very lost with who I am and how I should feel about things. But I'm slowly working through it. I also felt, throughout this entire process, I think, felt a tremendous amount of guilt. Like, especially after I would have an episode of like that mood swing or a panic attack or whatever, I would feel the heaviest sense of guilt and regret sit inside my gut, because I felt like I was putting Vikra, the one person who actually loved me and cared about me and whatever, through like the worst situations. I was just always yelling at him and always getting mad at him and always taking everything out on him, but he was the only person that I felt like I could talk to and open up to, and he was literally the only person throughout this entire process that I talked to, because I didn't feel right talking to anyone else. So I was so blessed to have him, but at the same time I also felt like I was abusing him. But at the same time, it was like I couldn't control it, and I just wanted him to be happy, because he was the only thing that made me happy, and I felt like I wasn't making him happy because of everything that I had to put him through. And he is such a champ, I have to tell you that. Like, he is, oh my god, my savior, my angel. Like, he is the reason I'm still here today for sure. Like, he got me through all those suicidal nights, and he got me through pretty much everything. So yeah, there was that tremendous amount of guilt that sat inside me because of that. I guess fast forward to present day, 2019. 2019 has been a year of transition. I have felt a lot better about myself. Like, I don't think I'm absolutely batshit crazy like I was in those past 3 years. But now I suffer from something called PMDD, which is like PMS, but a million times worse. So like a week and a half before I'm gonna get my period, up until about 3-4 days into my period, I'm basically batshit crazy. I have serious mood swings. I go through serious like anxiety and panic attacks. I just feel really depressed, really anxious, really suicidal, and I think it's because of like a chemical imbalance that happens while I'm trying to get into my period phase. And it's also like PTSD because it's just a traumatic experience, because I feel like what I felt like when I was on birth control, like at my worst moments of birth control, when I'm going through this, like when I'm going through the PMDD phase. And so like it's basically like 2 weeks out of the month I get to like relive the worst years of my life, and it's awful. It just sucks. And it's very hard to control. Like, I remember a couple of weeks ago I went wedding shopping with Vikra and his mom and his aunt, and like I was feeling really overwhelmed again because of my period, and then like wedding shopping, it's stressful itself. And oh my god, I started crying in the sari store, and it was so freaking embarrassing. And like his mom was being so sweet, and so was he, and so was his aunt. They were just like, don't worry, like it's just a sari, you don't have to decide now. And like I just wanted to be like, oh my god, can all of you fuck off? This is like really not about a sari right now. Like, I am just so not feeling well. Like, I have no idea what's going on. I feel like I'm gonna throw up. Like, I just felt like, and then right after his mom left, I had a straight up like insane panic attack. And then that day, because I had to hold it in for so long, because I was like I was out in public and I was around his parents, and I just like didn't want to go absolutely batshit crazy in that moment, even though I felt like I needed to. I came home and I had 4 panic attacks, like on separate times, and my mind was like swollen and pounding. My eyes were bloodshot red. They were so swollen. I had thrown up a few times. It was just really, really bad. So that happens to me like once a month, but thank God my period is regular, so I'm happy about that. I guess I can't complain about everything. But yeah, that's what happens to me once a month. And I think a lot of it also still comes from stress. And there was a lot that kind of happened in my life this year that was transitional, that was good, but like still stressful. Like, for example, I did my first master class. That was pretty stressful. We did our like engagement. So I had to plan all that, and I renovated like this house that we moved into, then we moved out, and then transitioning into the whole moving out, and then fighting with my parents about moving out before marriage, and then also planning a wedding. And then we're also paying for everything ourselves too, so just like really being able to keep on top of work and like making money and things like that, to afford everything that we want. So it's just kind of like, it's all good stuff, but also stressful stuff too. So I think my PMDD episodes are worse, and I'm hoping that they get better as I start to kind of reduce stress a little bit more. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of my story. Obviously there's a lot in there that I've like left out, a lot of details, a lot of like stressor points and stuff that just made it a lot worse, but those were, I guess, the main details, which were a lot of details still. So yeah, thank you guys so much for sitting through that. I appreciate it, and sorry for like crying occasionally or like tearing up occasionally. But yeah, I really hope that after watching this, some of you guys feel less lonely in your situation. I hope that there's at least one person out there that this just changes their mindset about things, that it helps encourage them to kind of get through what they're going through, because the state that you're in isn't permanent. And I have to remind myself that time and time again. I still have to remind myself that all the time. And I know it gets really, really hard and you feel like giving up and that it's never gonna end. But I promise you, like, from what I was 4 years ago to what I am now, I'm not perfect now, but man, I am way fucking better than I was 4 years ago. And if you had asked me 4 years ago, I felt like I was still gonna be in that same position that I was, just absolutely batshit crazy, like not knowing what was gonna go on, not knowing how my life was gonna turn out, just really lost, really confused. And today I feel way better about where I'm at, and I feel way happier about where I'm at, and I'm slowly getting happier and happier day by day, and it's awesome. It's so awesome to see the transition and the transformation. And I think anyone can do it, but you just have to be really, really patient with yourself and kind with yourself, which I think is the hardest thing to do, because you want things to change overnight, but they're not gonna change overnight. Like, it took me 4 years to get to this point, and I still feel like I'm still trying to improve myself and get out of this rut, but I've seen a massive change from before, and that's what kind of keeps me going. And you have to believe that things are gonna get better, and make sure you surround yourself with people that make you believe the same thing too, because if you're around people that don't make you feel that way, you're just gonna be stuck in this hole of self-pity and sadness and loneliness and being scared and depressed and anxious. And I will be making a separate video on how I feel like I got myself out of this rut, and the things that I did to change my life to make myself feel better, because there was quite a few things that I had to change about my lifestyle in order to better myself, I think, and make myself feel less like this. So I will do that in a separate video. I just wanted to keep this video as like a, this is what my journey was. So yeah, I'm gonna end it there because I feel like I've talked for ages. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate all your love and support. Let me know in the comments below if this was any type of helpful to you, if there's any other videos that you guys want me to make, about topics that you want me to cover, about my journey or anything else specifically. And I would love to make videos on that for you guys. And please do not forget to share this video with people you feel like need to hear it. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, and don't forget to subscribe, because I will be putting out a lot more content like this, talking about my personal life, just so you guys can get to know me a little bit better and also feel like you have someone to watch and turn to that understands your situation. So yeah, that's all there is for me today. Thank you guys so much once again. I love you guys, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.